Hey, welcome back to another video. So pretty exciting news on the portfolio. We officially closed up above 48,900 for the year so far. We're currently up over 31% year to date, which rounds out to about 11,700 plus. I think it's fairly impressive to say the least because you look at the S&P and you compare it to other stocks in my portfolio, you go, hey, I outperformed the S&P year to date and we're halfway through the year. So, of course, when you look at my holdings, a lot of my gains are being leveraged off of stocks like Nvidia, Amazon, SoundHound, and then there's other stocks, of course, which have taken, a decent sell-off or pretty much flat. Like Apple hasn't moved much this year. Tesla's been down. Shopify has taken a significant hit, especially after earnings. But like I mentioned in other videos, sometimes you just need a couple of good winners to give you a lot of your gains. As for NVIDIA, we have some very, very exciting news, which I'm fairly excited about. You probably know about their 10 to 1 forward stock split, and I had a feeling like a year ago that if the stock rose up considerable, it was either going to be one of three: 3 to 1, 4 to 1, or 10 to 1. And I know I talked about this in other videos. I said, I know they're going to stock split given how fast their stock price is growing. I just can't say when for sure. And of course, it finally happened. Jensen, he manifested it. So it's a great thing. So that's going to turn the stock price down to a bite-sized stock price, and it's going to be great for us retail investors. And I have a lot in NVIDIA for my age range, so I'm fairly impressed to see that I'm going to get 10 times more shares. And although it's psychological, which is fine, it doesn't mean I'm actually getting more for my money. It's just basically a pie, and you're cutting up in 10 different pieces. But I just think this is a really strong signal for years down the road in the semiconductor industry. The ingenuity, the tech, and the vision, which is a huge thing in this company, the tech industry in general. I think it's just a very strong sign of future bullishness. Even though competitors, though, like Intel, AMD, Microsoft, they're coming after NVIDIA's crown, which is understandable. You always need competition, especially in this industry. But I still think it is still the AI chip leader. Analysts would agree, hedge fund owners would agree, a lot of people would agree, and they're frankly just years ahead of all their competition. Um, but definitely a magnificent one, if you should call it that. And not to mention his chips are just what I could only try to comprehend, such as their new Blackwell chip, which is it's a graphic processing unit, but it's also an AI super chip announced by Jensen at the conference not too long ago. And this chip is actually designed to be a successor to their Hopper in 88 Lovelace. So basically, in short, it's a microarchitecture in which has civil features. So they basically mean that it would be a foundation in the next stage of AI, including connecting GPUs or graphic processing units, which would allow large AI models to train and result in smaller carbon footprints decompression, which sounds very confusing. Of course, it is, but that means that the chip is able to compact large amounts of data formats, which would allow that data processing to shift away from different types of chips. So to me, it sounds like they're consolidating. Of course, that kind of seems like the goal whenever it comes to these things in the tech industry. And of course, the semiconductor industry, these chips get smaller. Somehow they become more compact, more consolidated, and they compute at just a higher rate of speed with less energy. Because you'd be surprised how much energy these chips generate when they're computing, millions of computations per second. And of course, when we go to the generative AI, which has just been the entire talk this whole entire year, AI, 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 it just came out of literally like nowhere. But we hear about this and the platform that NVIDIA is, basically drawing this on, and they've been leading on. We'd be able to allow this generative AI to enable with this new chip of theirs, Blackwell, to what they call large language models up to 25 times less the cost and energy consumption. And this blew my mind. Just reading that, a couple times, right? Large language models up to 25 times less the cost and energy. These chips are not cheap. This Blackwell chip is selling for about, analysts are expecting 30 to 40,000, and let's just say it's north of 40,000, right? For a chip like this, for the amount of research that went into it, for it to basically compute as fast as it can and, basically outperform its original Hopper at 25 times less the cost and energy consumption and the original Hopper architecture, That is insane. It's using less energy. That's going to mean that it's not going to be as costly to configure, and it's going to cause 25 times less energy, which means less heat, right? You're not wasting that much energy when it's computing. So it's absolutely mind-boggling that it doesn't even, to me, it doesn't even feel like it's abiding by the laws of physics, but somehow it is, unless it's breaking it. Someone could really probably explain that to me. But if it is north of $40,000 a piece, which is insane, then you know that a lot of these companies that are competing with Google and companies that are trying to create partnerships with Google or simply just support, or sorry, Nvidia, are going to be just trying to buy as much as they can, whether they're implementing these pieces into data centers, into their own warehouses, whatever you want to call it. And I do believe it's going to be a complete moneymaker, lots of revenue. And even Jensen confirmed that he's like, we're going to see a lot of revenue from this Blackwell. And I'm like, when? He said, this year. He said, this year. Usually I would think in the back of my mind that something like this would take maybe 3 to 4 years before you see, a profit. But to see, from what Jensen's saying, a profit, this year, that is insane. So it shows that the amount of ingenuity that Nvidia is doing here is just complete leaps and bounds. They're not stopping. They're just setting record after record after record. And it seems like a lot of other these tech companies are partnering with Nvidia to buy these chips because it's just going to help their processes, whether it's being used in different facilities or data centers. But who knows? It's just very exciting because if you think about it, bottom line, you want to go back a few hundred years. It's kind of like the gold rush. Nvidia is not the one really mining for gold. They're the ones selling like all the special shovels and the tools and everything. And all these companies are like, wow, how'd you build these things? So they're just buying all the tools, right? And all these companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, it's like we can't really compete against Nvidia. I feel like it's only a matter of time before they just partner with them. They just buy their product, right? If you can't beat them, join them. So, they're willing to buy it so nobody's got profit nonetheless, but everyone's going to profit in the end with this whole AI thing. I do believe so. And then if you go back to like just Nvidia in general, how many shares they have outstanding, it's insane. We're going to have 10 times that amount. And of course, 10-to-1 stock split, you have one share, now you're getting 9 additional shares, so you have 10 total. Of course, I want to say I have 18 in my Robinhood portfolio, so I'll have 180 plus in my portfolio. And I am going to buy more shares. And I was even talking to another fellow NVIDIA holder, and right now in their portfolio, they have about 300 shares. I said, that's impressive. You're going to have 3,000 shares, so for every dollar NVIDIA goes up at that point, you're going to see a return of $3,000. That's awesome. But what I think is more important is that the volume is really going to be there for us, and if Nvidia continues to push and push and push to where it grows exponentially and substantially, like every single year, we could see Nvidia split every 3 to 4 years, and that seems like a very realistic figure. The amount of liquidity though, in terms of how many shares outstanding, it's kind of mind-boggling. How many shares the CEO will have, how much his net worth will rise, and I'm not concerned with that. He can make all the money in the world. I think he deserves it as long as he gives back to the shareholders what they deserve. You buy the stock, you hold it for long enough. If you see a return, I'm pretty happy with that nonetheless. So he can make as much money as he can. Go for it. I don't really mind as long as I get my fair share. So funny enough, my friend who owns these 300 shares, right? He says, I can't wait for this stock split. I'm thinking in my mind, I have other shares in other portfolios, but I'm thinking, I'm preparing for the next stock split. He goes, this 10-to-1? I go, no. The next stock split, whether it's 3-to-1, 4-to-1, which sounds very realistic. It's 2024, and now we're going to see a 10-to-1 stock split. And I do believe that in the next 3 to 4 years, depending on how Nvidia really, takes these bulls by the horn with AI, they could grow exponentially to where they could split again within the next 3 to 4 years. But I don't think that they'll split like 10-to-1. It's very unlikely. I think it might be a 3-to-1, maybe a 4-to-1. And, if they're growing at such an exponential pace, then it seems very likely. So, you look at these and you just realize like sometimes you just need a couple of big winners and it's just going to do you extremely well. But, of course, I wanted to always take my foot slightly off the gas pedal with Nvidia, but I can't. It's just too consuming, in a very good way. But other stocks that really, have a piece of, my attention would be Amazon, Apple, SoundHound, to help me kind of diversify. And of course, the stake is Nvidia. But of course, If they all sell off, Nvidia will probably sell off too. Of course, it's been leveraging a large part of the market, but of course, bottom line, these companies are so big that it takes a lot to put a dent in them, and whether it sells off or whether it pushes up and breaks above that resistance, I'm pretty sure that everyone's going to profit as long as they hold. And this is very well, a stock that can make people millionaires. It has made people millionaires and multi-millionaires. So it's just a matter of time before Nvidia stock splits, and hopefully we'll see the next stock split after that, not too long in the future. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Question is Nvidia at its peak? I keep hearing that a lot. Do you think it's due for a sell-off? Of course, a lot of people would agree, some disagree, but let me know your thoughts below. And of course, thanks for watching. Happy investing. Stay safe.